Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bay State Golf Podcast. I am your host, Sean Melia, and today's topic is looking at some of my favorite non-traditional par golf courses. What the hell does that mean? Basically, I'm looking at golf courses that have par over the course of 18 holes that is less than 70. And I know that there are a bunch of very good golf courses out there that are par 69s. Plymouth Country Club in Massachusetts is definitely one of them. But I have some here that are public, good spots to, maybe shake off some rust this spring, bring a new golfer to check out the game and just try playing golf. So I'm going to call it non-traditional. It's probably not the perfect phrase, but I couldn't really think of anything else. And that's what we're going to do. I've got 4 golf courses, so this one might be a little bit shorter than some of my other ones. From the last few weeks where I've looked at bang for your buck golf courses south, west, and north of Boston. Please go check out those podcasts or videos. Wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe, rate, review. Just really helps me find new listeners, and new listeners find me. So thanks for doing all that. If you are listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it's also on YouTube. I've been kind of mixing in some pictures and videos from the rounds at these golf courses because, as always, the only golf courses I talk about on here are ones that I have played during my quest. Every now and then, there are courses I played before 2020 that might get a little mention, but as far as recommending places, I have tried and make a point to just talk about ones that I've played and played with the intention of thinking about photographing, reviewing, and sharing them. One last thing on top of rating and reviewing, if you are interested in just kind of getting everything I do in one package at the end of the week, on Fridays I send a newsletter. You can subscribe to the newsletter on baystategolf.beehiiv.com. Beehive is spelled BEEHIIV.com. I do a little writing there every Friday. I embed my video to this podcast. I give some links. I also just pick out some things that I really liked from the week that I read, listened to, watched, ate, or drank. So kind of a nice way for me to round out my week and a nice way for you to just kind of get everything in one place. And lastly, follow me on Instagram. That's where I do most stuff during the week and post pictures and video and reels and reviews and all that good stuff. That is baystate_golf. So you can go find me there as well. All right, let's get to my 4 non-traditional golf courses that have a par lower than 70. We're going to kind of bounce around the state here. Nothing with regards to region in this one. We're just going to talk about 4 in Massachusetts that I've played that I think are worth checking out. I'm going to throw in a 5th little bonus one just at the top because it's not, it's a little bit different than these other 4. But Stone Meadow in Lexington, Mass, has an pretty solid range, big range if you're, trying to find a place to hit balls on a nice day. They've got a little grass chipping putting area that you can pay to use. I think it's like $5, or you can use it basically for free if you play around at their 9-hole pitch and putt. Stone Meadow is great. If you're a city dweller like me, it's not too hard to get to. If the traffic is okay, or if the weather is okay too, but if the traffic is okay, I got my mind on the weather because it's been really dreary here in Massachusetts it feels like the last two months. And so if the traffic is good, you can definitely get to Lexington and Stone Meadow, in 20 minutes from Boston. If you live in Metro West, it's just a good area. It's kind of a fun little pitch and putt. I've gone and just worked on my wedge game, and sometimes it can be super busy, like a lot of places right now that are giving out golf and have golf. But if you go at the right time of day, if you go on maybe a day that's not like perfect weather, you can go around and hit a bunch of different shots, and the greens are small. You're hitting off turf on your tee shots, but other than that, you're hitting off grass. A lot of short grass areas. You can just hit a couple extra shots. So Stone Meadow in Lexington is just a kind of a kickoff bonus spot. Go check out this spring, shake off the rust, go reconnect with the game, hit some wedge shots, go to the driving range. But it's a spot that I like. Let's go down for my first official recommendation. I want to recommend Coutou High Grounds. This is a golf course that I had never heard of before I started the quest. My buddy Kevin Van Cleef is the one who introduced me to it. A lot of people have, a lot of great history and memories of playing here growing up, because it is kind of your quintessential short, all par threes. You get one par four. It's a par 28. It's a 9-hole golf course. And it's unlike any other golf course I think I've played in my quest. Every hole, the par three is not a pitch and putt. You've got to hit. You're hitting, a bunch of sand wedges, a bunch of wedges, but there's a kind of 160 to 185 yard hole. The par four is a quirky one that a good drive, you can drive the green, but if you don't, you've got a tough wedge shot. All the greens are tiny. All the greens are super severe. It's just kind of, you got to have a good sense of humor and be okay with funny bounces and balls rolling forever, and just bad breaks and whatever else can kind of come with golf. It's a really great little spot to go and play golf. It's typically open year round. I believe there's an honor box. So, one of those places you just throw $20 in if there's no one in the clubhouse, and you can go play your 9 or 18 holes or whatever you want to do. My first introduction to Coutou was I got to go on a Wednesday evening in the spring and played in their quota game. I did not win any money, but you put some money in. If you have a handicap, you get your quota that matches your handicap. If you don't have a handicap, you've got to play, I think, 3 times in the Wednesday quota before you're eligible to make any money, and they kind of give you a handicap based on your 3 scores that you shoot. You go play 18 holes, you keep score. It's a Stableford quota game, and it's just a lot of fun. People are in jeans and T-shirts. It's, come as you are kind of golf, and grab a beer, hang out afterwards on the porch. Just a really low-key spot that if you live down in that area, it's certainly worth going and checking out. If you have kids that want to get into golf, it's a great place to go and get kids into golf, or any sort of beginner. I've also played in Kevin's event, which he has run now for the last 2 years, called the Crocker, which is in August, and a really great kind of snapshot of the community at Coutou. You have guys like Ricky Steinmetz playing in the Crocker. Ricky Steinmetz, if you don't know, just won the Mass Mid-Am last fall by 13 shots. He was Mass Player of the Year. But he grew up and he played there a bunch as a kid, and he showed up to the Crocker and played 18 holes at Coutou High Grounds. Then you've got, men and women in their 60s and 70s who are playing alongside, one of the better players in the state and a former pro in Ricky Steinmetz. So that's the kind of place it is. It's really fun. The Crocker was a blast. Playing alt shot at Coutou was pretty wild, and it's one of those things that is on the calendar every year now to go down to Coutou. Not a lot of places have had that impact on me, but between my friendship with Kevin and just being in a place that kind of fills your bucket and makes you remember how great golf is, and makes you hit a bunch of different crazy shots that you kind of would dream up when you were a kid, and you've got to hit them now in real life. So instead of on a practice green. So Coutou High Ground, it's $20. It's a par 28, great Wednesday quota game, family-owned spot. It is just a blast to play. So Coutou High Ground, go check it out. It is in Coutou, Mass, kind of a little village there, close to the Falmouth, Mashpee kind of area on the Cape. Next up, we're going to go to the other side of the city. We're going to go up to Wenham. Wenham Country Club in Wenham, Massachusetts is a par 65. It costs $47 to play during the week, $54 on the weekends. It marks itself as semi-private. I've never had a hard time getting a tee time. I think they kind of limit a little bit of weekend play, but on a weekday, if you want to go play and there's no leagues going on or anything in the evenings, you can get out. So it says semi-private, but it's more, I think it's almost like a semi-public kind of feel to it. I think for me, if the back nine wasn't so good, maybe Wenham doesn't make this list, and I'm only talking about 3 golf courses. The front 9, the first hole runs along a graveyard, kind of a cool feel to start the round. You play down towards 1A, which is, if you've ever driven 1A through Beverly and South Hamilton, or to South Hamilton through Wenham, you've definitely seen Wenham Country Club. A couple holes right on the road there. The front 9 is pretty straightforward. It's nothing great. There's a couple cool little holes. It's pretty short. Another good place. I think I'm going to do a whole list of great golf courses to bring beginners to, because I think it sometimes is tricky to find places that are approachable, both as like a place to play and just an energy at the golf course. Wenham kind of hits that for me. Not a lot of forced carries, pretty wide open. So the front 9 is fine. There's some weird holes. Especially there's a big dog leg where, man, you could hit your tee shot like into the group teeing off on another hole, and you got the parking lot in play. It's kind of, there's some awkward shots, but then you get to the back 9, and the back 9 runs through this kind of hilly land. There's some really great holes. 11 for me is like one of the better holes I've played in the Quest. It's just, you get a semi-blind tee shot down into a valley, and then you're playing way uphill for your second shot. There's a rock wall that runs through the middle of it. It made my composite course the first or second year I did that in 2020 or 2021. I think I played it in 2021, and that was the last time I played it. It's a place I played a bunch when I lived up in the Hamilton area for a bit, and then I worked up there for 13 years. So it was definitely a place I knew and I played, but the back 9 is what makes this place. It's a par 65, so you've got, a handful of par 3s, and it's just really picturesque as you play through the back 9. You don't see any of the road. You're kind of on the opposite side of the land. Some little downhill par 3s, some uphill par 3s. It can get a little bit soggy just because there's so much kind of rolling land. You get some spots where the ball collects and can get kind of stuck. But overall, just a really good golf course. If I could play the back 9 twice, I would. And I would be completely content playing that stretch of holes, on a semi-regular basis. That is Wenham Country Club. Go check it out. Again, it's in Wenham, Massachusetts. It is a par 65. It is $47 a play on the weekdays, $54 on the weekends. It is semi-public / semi-private, whichever one you want to call it. So you might have a little bit of a tougher time just getting a tee time if you're a general public. I don't think they open them up until a little bit closer to the day of your tee time. I don't think they do a week in advance. So that is Wenham Country Club. Go check it out. 11th hole is tremendous. Some tough par 3s. Some fun par 4s, the back 9 rocks, and Wenham definitely kind of stands out as a good little par 65 to go check out. Next up, we're going to go back south of the city before we come back up north for the last course. We've got 2 left here, and again, these are courses I have played. I know that there are I know there are 9-hole courses. I kind of added Coutou to this, which is maybe shouldn't be on this list per se, but it's such a unique place in my mind. Going to do a 9-hole course review, looking to get Kevin actually to come on the podcast and do that one with me and talk about 9-hole courses. He'll probably want to talk about Coutou. But going to do a 9-hole one, which will definitely bring in some 9-holers that are not par 35 or 36. Maybe they're 34s or 33s or 32s. There's a bunch of good ones around. So I'm only talking about the ones that I've played that are not 9-holers. Coutou withstanding, just because it was one I definitely wanted to talk about and could talk about again with Kevin. So let's go to Southers Marsh in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Plymouth, the Pinehurst of Massachusetts, just chock full of golf courses of all sorts of sizes and shapes. And Southers Marsh is definitely one that you should go and check out. It is completely, just like Coutou, a really unique place. I played there in a Boston Golf and Social event. I think they're doing another one this year. Go check out their website for kind of all their events. They do a bunch around the state over the course of the spring, summer, and the fall. And I played Southers Marsh late in the season in 2021, and it is plays through and over and around a cranberry bog that the golf course owns, and they harvest the cranberries. If they have commercials on TV if you ever have seen them. It's a par 61. It is $37 to play on the weekdays and $44 on the weekends. This course just has, I would say this isn't one, even with as a par 61 and it's pretty cheap, it's not a super attainable, easy golf course for someone who's just getting into the game. It is definitely a novelty if you're someone who's getting into the game, just because you're hitting over completely different types of land, but you are hitting over a lot of cranberry bog areas, a lot of forced carries. So it can be a little tricky if you're thinking like, oh, this would be a fun place to bring my husband or my wife or my kids who are just getting into golf. There's a bunch of forced carries. You can probably play from a tee that might make it a little easier, obviously, but thinking about some other ones like Wenham and Coutou, that you're not carrying a lot of tough land, and you're going to usually find your golf ball. But Southers Marsh is super charming, another family-owned place. Great hang after, good patio looking out over the 18th. You've got a handful of par 4s that some of them you can drive, some of you're hitting, driver and maybe a shortish iron in, a bunch of par 3s. You can make, you can, and you're hitting it's a nice mix of par 3s. I think you're hitting some long irons, you're hitting some wedges, over the course of the entire 18 holes. So it's a fun little, I don't love using the word fun, but this is kind of one of those places that if you like golf and you just are, it's just different. Go check out Southers Marsh in Plymouth. They also, in the winter, which currently it's still in the winter and it's still pretty chilly out, they have a great indoor-outdoor driving range they call the Barn. I think it's got top tracer technology, and you're hitting from inside through big garage doors to an actual range, unless the weather is really bad. So another good reason just to go down to Southers Marsh if you live in that area, or you just want to see a golf ball fly through the air, and not into a screen as the weather slowly starts to get a little bit better up here in Massachusetts. Southers Marsh is certainly a place to just go and visit, and support, because it's a good place with good people. And I really like it, and I think you should check it out. And I have not been back since I played that one time, and I got to go back. It's also a really good place if you're going down and playing Waverly or Crosswinds or Pine Hills or Atlantic or anywhere down there, and you're looking for an emergency 9. This would be an emergency 18, but you can play around pretty quick and get something in the summertime. Also really nice to play in the fall as the cranberries are about to be harvested. The colors are really bright and vibrant from the pictures I've seen, even the day we played it. Just kind of this lovely burnt kind of red color that you're walking around and through and over throughout the round. So Southers Marsh. And finally, we're going to go to Melrose, Massachusetts, and we're going to talk about Mount Hood. Mount Hood is another place that I had never played before the Quest and I teed it up with my buddy Burke, who has been on this podcast. He's talked about the majors. We were just together on Sunday at that Celtics Warriors game, and Mount Hood actually inevitably comes up when we get together. We don't have extensive conversations or dive into the architectural merits of the golf course, but it is a really solid golf course. It's $49 if you are a non-resident on the weekdays and $57 on the weekends. It is $42 if you're a resident on the weekdays and $48 on the weekends. And then you toss in a cart for whatever, $20. It's a pretty good deal. Mount Hood is a par 69, so it almost gets to that par 70. It's a 35 on the front and a 34 on the back. Like I said, when it comes up in conversation, it comes up more as a place that was, a pleasant surprise. We were just looking for a place to play, and I needed a place to play to check off, and Melrose is a pretty easy drive for both of us. So we got maybe a Monday or Tuesday tee time. It might have even been a Friday, actually, now that I think about it. And we played with two buddies who were, I think they were both maybe in their 50s or 60s, and they said they grew up playing there. And so the setting is pretty good, especially on the back nine. There's some spots where you're high enough up, particularly on the 12th tee box, where you can see some of Boston Harbor. You can see planes coming in into Logan. So there's some, a sense of place. It is a pretty hilly walk. There's a lot of rolling hills. You're hitting a lot of uphill shots, downhill shots. You've got a handful of drivable par fours. You've got a couple long par threes. You've got a couple short par threes. It's a solid layout. I believe some people in the comments, as I've posted about this every now and then, have kind of called it George Wright, kind of a George Wright light feel to it. It is definitely not as good as George Wright, but as you play it and you're playing, some blind shots, you're playing just around some pretty extreme land, it does give you some George Wright energy. So it's a good, solid course. As someone who lives in the Boston area, it's pretty easy to get to. I think it probably does take a little bit longer to play here because of the way the course is set up, with some drivable par fours where people might be waiting around a little bit. The 11th hole is a kind of an awesome drivable par four where it's got I don't want to say it feels like you're in Scotland, because that is a preposterous thing to say, but it's got a feature that gives it some kind of rub of the green feature to it, where you're hitting your tee shot over this kind of big mound or dune. I don't know if it's man-made, if it was there, but it's a drivable par four, but you can't see the green from the tee box, and you're just hoping you pick the right line over this big mound to get to the green, or you can just kind of hit a layup shot, and you can see a little sliver of the fairway to the left where you can lay up. But if you want to go for the green, you're just picking a spot and hoping you pick the right one. So I liked that hole. I liked the back. I like the front. A lot of people have told me that fourth hole, which is a really tough par five with just a challenging drive into a narrow area that's surrounded by marshy land, and then the second shot is going to force you to carry it up onto a plateau. Maybe you try to get up to the green, but the way the land all slopes really hard from right to left just makes it a really tough second shot. It can make for a tough third shot. If you end up too far right, you're blocked out by trees. Too far left, you're tumbling down into some trouble. A lot of people have I've talked about the fourth hole with them and thought it was a tough one. It's another course I would like to go back and play again with a fresh set of eyes and a good camera. It's got some picturesque spots, and it's a good golf course. It's another one I wouldn't necessarily say it's great for beginner golfers just because of the way you're going to get a kind of some really tough lies, and there's some forced carries and some funny spots you can get into. But, I'd say it's probably easier than Souther's Marsh, even though it's a longer golf course as far as par is concerned. But Mount Hood, go check it out, Melrose, Mass, and it's an affordable round of golf these days for a par 69. It ends with a par 3. The back 9 also starts with a par 3. So you got bookend par 3s. I think the overall we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 6 par 3s in here, which is kind of what brings the par down into the 60s. So you're going to play a third of the holes are par 3s. You're going to play a bunch of short par 4s. You've got a couple par 5s, including the first 2 of the first 4 holes are par 5s, and you get 1 on the back. So it's a good mix. You're going to hit a bunch of different shots, and you're going to get some good views. You're going to have some, a little bit of George Wright vibes out at Mount Hood Golf Course. So that does it. That's the 4, including, and then throwing in Stone Meadow there as well in Lexington, just to go really shake off the rust, go work on the wedges, something that I always need to do, and I'm looking forward to doing once the weather gets good and I can go watch some wedges fly through the air and land on greens and all that good stuff. So just to run through them again, we've got Stone Meadow in Lexington as a little bonus side quest for you. And then Coutou High Ground in Coutou, Massachusetts, a par 28, $20 to play. They've got an honor box if you show up and there's no one there. Great quota game on Wednesdays. That's Coutou High Grounds. Then we go to Wenham Country Club in Wenham, Massachusetts. It is a par 65, 47 on the weekdays, 54 on the weekends. Always my prices are to walk. Third, we've got Souther's Marsh in Plymouth, Massachusetts. It is a par 61. It is $37 to play on the weekdays, 44 on the weekends. Great indoor-outdoor driving range called the Barn, which also is worth just going and checking out. Grab a beer, hit some golf shots, bring some buddies. I know they have sometimes some events there too. So that's another reason to go check out Souther's Marsh even before they're maybe fully open for the year. And finally, Mount Hood in Melrose, Massachusetts. $49 if you are a non-resident on the weekdays, $42 if you are a resident. And then on the weekends, it's $57 for non-residents and $48 for residents. So you save a little bit of money if you live in Melrose. Par 69, good layout, little mini George Wright vibes from some people that I've heard from, and I tend to agree to some extent. You're going to play through some rolling land, some kind of wild shots, a lot of par 3s, though, not quite as bulky and brawny, but it's like the welterweight, lightweight version of George Wright. If you're looking for something along those lines, then Mount Hood might be your spot. Thank you, as always, for listening, for subscribing, for sharing this with friends. I know that I am hoping that these are just helping people find new places to play as the spring approaches. And if you're watching this in the spring or summer and other times, just giving people places that are new to go and play golf, maybe meet some new people, or just get some buddies together and go break the monotony of your regular weekend round and go try something else. So thanks again. Please subscribe, rate, review, share this podcast or video wherever you are listening to or watching it. And we will be back next week, hopefully with a 9-hole course list for you with Kevin. If not, I'll be back with something else. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.